Okay, let's dive deep into something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a movie.
Right.
This idea of a huge secret city hidden way, way down beneath the Giza pyramids.
Mm-hmm.
You sent over sources covering this pretty wild claim. We've got reports on radar findings, but also some really sharp pushback from experts.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And then there's the whole cultural thing, why these ideas grab us. So our mission today, sort through it all. Figure out what's really going on under all that sand.
Exactly. The main claim, it seems to stem from Italian and Scottish researchers, part of something called the Hoax project.
Okay.
And they've put out this, well, astonishing idea that using some kind of advanced radar, they've spotted this massive underground complex, maybe a city, they say.
Bigger than the pyramids.
Way bigger and deeper. They're talking alleged structures over 6,500 feet down. That's nearly 2 kilometers.
Wow.
And these vertical shafts, or cylinders, supposedly plunging like 2,100 feet.
Just hearing those numbers, it just fires up the imagination, doesn't it? A whole city miles below, probably the most studied ancient site on Earth.
It really does.
And it immediately creates this tension. Is this some groundbreaking discovery that rewrites everything we thought we knew?
Oh.
Or is it, like a lot of experts jumped in to say, a big misread of the data, maybe something else entirely.
Precisely. It definitely made headlines and stirred up a lot of online chatter.
And that's why we're digging in. You shared the articles, the notes, the discussions. We're going to try and unpack the claims, the tech they apparently used, the pretty heavy skepticism from scientists. And also, importantly, why these kinds of stories are so captivating. What are the actual insights we can pull from all this?
All right, let's get into it.
So these really dramatic claims, let's start right there. The CAFRA project folks, Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, are named in the sources.
Right.
They say they use synthetic aperture radar, SAR, sometimes called pulse radar, often deployed from satellites, aircraft, looking below the surface.
Yeah, that's the tech they cite. And the specifics of what they claim they found, particularly under the Khafre pyramid, it's incredibly detailed stuff.
Like what?
Well, these vertical cylindrical structures, some supposedly going down to that almost unbelievable depth, 2,100 feet, about 648 meters.
Okay.
They also mentioned seeing things that look like spiral staircases, different chambers, channels that maybe suggest a water system.
A water system, wow.
And 5 identical multi-level structures kind of clustered near the pyramid's base. And these massive, really massive cube-shaped chambers, like 80 meters on each side, allegedly.
80 meters. Huge.
Yeah.
And the overall scale, he said 6,500 feet.
Yeah, they suggest the whole system might stretch over 6,500 feet, maybe 2 full kilometers across.
Okay, that's vast.
And then they drop this age claim, which is just as staggering. They suggest these structures could be 38,000 years old.
38,000.
Yeah, which would make them, 33,500 years older than the pyramids themselves, based on standard dating?
That just blows up the accepted timeline completely.
Totally rewrites it. Now, about the tech, SAR, the sources explain it. Sends radar waves down, listens for the echoes bouncing back off different stuff underground.
Right, like sonar, but through the ground.
Kinda, yeah. And by processing those echoes, you build a picture of what's hidden. And SAR is a real archaeological tool. It's been used, successfully. Finding old roads under jungles, buried towns under deserts.
Okay, so the technology itself isn't, made up. It exists. It works for some things.
Exactly.
But applying it like this, claiming these depths, these structures, that's where things get really contentious. And you mentioned they even connected it to the mythical Hall of Records.
Yep, that's another layer they apparently added. Taps right into those long-running esoteric ideas about hidden ancient knowledge under Giza.
Okay, so extraordinary claims, huge scale, unbelievable age, maybe cutting-edge tech, tied to ancient myths. What happens when the mainstream's scientists, the Egyptologists, hear all this?
Well, the reaction was pretty swift and overwhelmingly skeptical. Across the board, really. Many top experts in Egyptology and geophysics, they pushed back hard. Dr. Zahi Hawass, he's a huge name, former Minister of Antiquities in Egypt.
Right, I know the name.
He basically didn't pull any punches, called it fake news, baseless fabrications, said they came from people with, in his view, no real expertise in ancient Egypt. He stressed there was just zero scientific evidence presented.
Oof, strong words.
Okay.
And the core scientific criticism really focuses on the tech's limitations, right? Especially those depths they're claiming.
That's the absolute crux of the scientific problem. Radar experts like Lawrence Conyers, who specializes in GPR, ground-penetrating radar, which is related,
Okay.
he stated very clearly that current SAR, or GPR tech, just cannot penetrate dense limestone. And that's what Giza is mostly made of, down to 2,000 feet or kilometers, and get any kind of useful picture back. The resolution wouldn't be there.
So it just fuzzes out.
Pretty much. He called the 2,000-foot claims science fiction, or a huge exaggeration. Now, he did concede that maybe you could detect smaller things like shafts or columns much closer to the surface with really advanced GPR.
But not vast chambers kilometers down.
No, that scale, that depth. He says it's physically impossible with today's tech. The signal just wouldn't make it back clearly through all that solid rock.
It's like trying to see through a brick wall with a flashlight.
Kind of, yeah. Dense rock just absorbs and scatters those radar waves too quickly, getting a clear echo from kilometers down through limestone. We just can't do that right now.
And there's a geology problem too, right? Like, could huge empty spaces even exist that deep?
That's the other major scientific hurdle. Geologists point out the Giza bedrock is mostly that soft, porous limestone. It doesn't have the strength, the structural integrity to support huge open spaces like 80-meter cubes thousands of feet down.
Why not?
The sheer pressure from all the rock above would just cause them to collapse over time. You'd need something incredibly hard, like granite, to maybe hold up large cavities that deep, and Giza isn't primarily granite at those depths.
Okay, makes sense. So tech limitations, geological impossibility. What about how they announced this? The sources mentioned that was another big point of skepticism.
Oh, absolutely. This is a huge red flag for any scientist, and really key to understanding the pushback. This study, the one making these massive claims, it hasn't been published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Meaning other independent experts in the field haven't had a chance to check their methods, look at their data, scrutinize their conclusions. Nothing.
Okay.
And on top of that, the raw radar data itself, it hasn't been released publicly, so other scientists can't even try to verify it or replicate the findings.
Right.
In real science, especially archaeology and geophysics, peer review and open data are absolutely fundamental. You have to show your work. Without that, especially for claims this big, they just lack credibility in the scientific community.
It's like saying you cured cancer but won't show anyone your research.
Exactly. It just completely sidesteps the normal process for validating scientific discoveries. And the sources also mention reports that some images floating around online, supposedly showing these underground structures,
Yeah.
they actually looked like they might be AI-generated fakes, not real data scans. Which obviously doesn't help build trust.
No kidding. And other big names in Egyptology, like Dr. Slim Ikram, Dr. Lynn Dodd, they also weighed in.
Yes, they basically said that based on decades of actual peer-reviewed archaeology and remote sensing at Giza, there's just no evidence at all for anything like these massive, deep structures, nothing remotely on that scale.
So the consensus from the experts, based on the tech, the geology, the lack of proper process, it's pretty firmly against these specific claims. That seems like a key takeaway.
It really is. The scientific community is just not buying it based on what's not been presented.
And yet, despite all that scientific doubt, this story really took off. It went viral, got headlines. Why? What is it about Secret City Under the Pyramids that just hooks us?
Well, it taps into some really deep stuff, I think, both in, human curiosity and in specific cultural stories we tell. The pyramids themselves are inherently mysterious, right? And the idea that they hide secrets is ancient. The legend of a hidden hall of records, maybe under the Sphinx, maybe under the plateau, holding lost knowledge from, say, Atlantis, that idea was massively popularized by Edgar Cayce back in the 20th century.
Okay.
So these new radar claims, they land right on top of that existing myth. It feels familiar, but with a modern, high-tech spin.
It bridges the ancient mystery with, or claimed ancient mystery with, futuristic tech.
Perfectly put. And this idea of a huge underground complex, it also feeds into other, let's say, alternative theories about the pyramids.
Like what?
The sources show how these claims quickly got tangled up with ideas that maybe the pyramids or the supposed underground bits weren't just tombs. Maybe they had some, technological function.
An energy grid, a power plant, that kind of thing.
Exactly that kind of thing. People bring up Nikola Tesla's speculations about pyramid energy or Christopher Dunn's theories about the Great Pyramid being some kind of machine.
Right, turning tombs into tech.
Precisely. And you see these themes everywhere in pop culture, don't you? Hidden chambers, ancient tech, lost wisdom, Indiana Jones, The Mummy, Stargate,
Assassin's Creed Origins.
video games, books, movies. Even shows about how tech reveals hidden stuff. It's baked into our storytelling. So when a claim like Secret City under Giza pops up, it instantly resonates. It's shareable, it sparks debate online, fuels those trends.
It's got all the ingredients for going viral.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient Egypt, mystery, conspiracy, cool tech.
Yeah.
Now, the sources also brought up a criticism from some Egyptologists about the wider implications of these kinds of unsupported claims, specifically about advanced ancient tech maybe overshadowing the actual builders.
Yeah, that's a perspective presented in the material, and it's important to report it impartially. Some expert, Flora Anthony was named.
Okay.
They argue that some alternative theories, especially ones suggesting ancient peoples needed outside help, like aliens or some lost supercivilization, to build monuments, can inadvertently downplay the incredible skill and ingenuity of the actual cultures involved, like the ancient Egyptians. They suggest this can sometimes, maybe unintentionally, echo older, problematic ideas that question whether non-European peoples could achieve such amazing things on their own.
There's a critique of the theories themselves and their potential cultural baggage.
Exactly. As presented in the sources, it's about the potential impact of these narratives. It just shows how talking about the ancient past can connect some really complex, sensitive issues about history and identity.
It's definitely more than just idle speculation about old stones.
It shows our fascination isn't just academic curiosity. It's tangled up in how we view the past, different cultures, and maybe even ourselves.
Okay, let's step back from these specific, really controversial claims for a second, because it's important to remember there is real science happening at Giza, right? Finding real things, just maybe not. This.
Absolutely. Key distinction. Yes. Projects like scan pyramids, using techniques like muon tomography that's detecting cosmic rays passing through stone. They have found genuine, previously unknown voids inside the Great Pyramid. They famously found the big void above the Grand Gallery, and a smaller one too.
Right, I remember hearing about that.
These are significant discoveries, peer-reviewed, validated, but notice the difference. They're voids within the pyramid structure itself, not vast cities kilometers underground. The scale, the location, the nature of the finding, completely different.
So advanced tech is revealing new secrets at Giza, just maybe not the ones hitting the viral headlines in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the tech could see that deep, verifying it would be a whole other nightmare, wouldn't it?
Oh, huge practical challenges. I mean, think about it. How do you even begin to check? You can't just start drilling holes all over the Giza Plateau.
Right, you damage priceless history.
Exactly. It's an incredibly sensitive site. Getting permission from Egyptian authorities for any kind of excavation or even major non-invasive work is rightly a very complex, careful process. They protect their heritage fiercely, especially for projects proposing radical ideas without rock-solid proof. Dr. Hawass actually confirmed no permits were given for the kind of work the Khafre project claimed.
So it's this constant balancing act, the desire for knowledge versus the absolute need to preserve this unique cultural heritage.
It requires incredible care, real collaboration, and sticking to rigorous scientific and ethical standards.
So wrapping this up, where does it leave us? We've got this incredibly compelling image, right? A hidden city, ancient myths, maybe revealed by new tech.
Super captivating.
But then we have the weight of the scientific consensus based on today's technology, what we know about geology, and the complete lack of peer-reviewed evidence or open data. It just doesn't hold water. These specific claims seem strongly debunked for now.
Yeah, that seems to be the clear conclusion from the sources. But the Giza Plateau itself, it definitely still holds secrets. Real, validated discoveries are still being made through careful science. They just might be, less sensational than a buried metropolis.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, listening in. Giza has always been this magnet for mystery, for speculation, for explorers using the latest tools of their time. So how do you navigate that line between the thrill of potentially uncovering ancient secrets and the absolute necessity of hard evidence and scientific rigor? And maybe, what does our enduring fascination with finding hidden worlds beneath places like Giza really tell us about ourselves? About our hopes, maybe our anxieties, and our deep desire to connect with a past that still feels partly hidden?